I'm Austin. You probably see me on this channel, at least my hands on this channel, playing against Ivan and Hugo a few times. We're going to go over my Giada deck here. This is a Japanese alt art promo. I use this because I prefer this artwork over any of the actual English artwork. But I do have an additional Giada in English just for other people who don't believe what I'm saying when I play around with her about what she does. Where she taps for a white mana that you can cast. You can help cast for only angel spells, and each other angel that enters the battlefield comes in with additional +1/+1 counter for each other angel I control. So there's Necroma in here. There's Stormheim Aspirant, which is probably a staple in every single angel deck, and will continue to be a staple unless they print something even better.
What does it do?
Angel spells you cast cost 2 less to cast.
Oh, just a discount. Oh, that's cool.
And then we have Radiant Archangel. It's I can't remember if this is a reserve list or not, but it's got a nice ability in which Radiant gets +1/+1 for each other creature with flying in play, including your opponent's, not just your own. So he can get really, really big. And then we have a Boonbringer Valkyrie. Just a nice backup creature, which gives a +1/+1 counter onto a creature if you didn't know, and then it adds until end of turn. It gets all the other keywords or abilities that's after the backup. So like if I play this Boonbringer Valkyrie and Giada still untapped, and I'll put a +1/+1 counter on her, she'll gain first strike and lifelink on top of her own vigilance.
Oh, really?
Until end of turn.
Where's that card from?
March of the Machines.
Okay. Is it from one of the commander decks or something?
No, it's just a rare in the set.
Oh, nice.
So the backup was a mechanic that they added into the entire set.
I feel like I missed that set almost entirely.
A lot of people actually did.
Yeah.
I feel like Youthful Valkyrie, another kind of staple in most angel decks at this point, because whenever another angel enters the battlefield, you put +1/+1 counter on her, which doesn't double from Giada because she'll already be in play for other angels, but the worst. Sarah Skyblade. She's used for additional protection in the deck from any board wipes. Even though usually when I play this deck, I usually try not to overcommit or overfor the board.
Yep.
Ivan and Hugo can attest to that whenever I play this deck.
Yeah, he's typically pretty reserved with the amount of angels that he's putting out there.
And Valkyrie Heartbringer is just another token generator. As long as it creates an angel, Giada will still see it, so the tokens will still enter with additional counters, and your other angels afterwards will enter with additional counters based on how many tokens you have that are angels. It's only looking for the type angel. Sarah Redeemer. This is a card that when I was looking through this deck again, I don't know why I put this in the deck, to be honest. It has a few targets. One of the premium targets is Giada for adding two +1/+1 counters on her, since she does have power 2 or less when she enters. But there are very few cards. I think it's below 5 cards, so this might end up getting cut at some point if I would get the time to go back to this deck.
Yeah. What do you think you would replace it with?
I wouldn't know right now. There's a lot of options. I could put, looking at the deck, I could put another removal spell in, or another big fat angel, or another rock, or attempt to get an artifact like a Mind's Eye in case I need more draw power in this deck.
That makes sense, yeah.
And we have the Mirror Shepherd, which is a reanimator effect in this deck via landfall, as long as the planes. And since this is a mono white deck, you're pretty much only playing planes. I think I'm running only like 6 non-basics in this entire deck, so everything will be reanimated, more than likely. Bruna the Fading Light.
These are cool.
Bruna the Fading Light is used as a reanimation spell, obviously, pretty much as a 7-mana 5/7 that brings back a body. Its main purpose is to serve as the meld path for the Gisela, so that they come together and meld into Priscilla, the Voice of Nightmares. It is a card that your opponent should never allow you to ever get on board, because it is extremely tough to remove the single target spells, as your opponents can't cast spells with converted mana cost 3 or less. So there's no swords, there's no Feed the Swarm, none of those cheap, efficient removal spells can target her. or can be cast at all, as well as that she has flying, first strike, vigilance, and lifelink. So when she ever gets a chance to swing, she's gonna shift your life totals in your favor quite a bit. Unfortunately, for the pre-release, Brazil doesn't get the timestamp, a date stamp on it, unlike the front sides, which is fine, I guess.
Hold on, so there's no timestamp on the back?
There's no, see, these are pre-release cards.
Yeah, but I see that there's...
Yeah, they have the pre-release, but the backside doesn't.
Oh, that's what you were saying.
Yeah, that's what I was saying like earlier. And I was talking to Ivan, is that there's no pre-release stamp on these. Unfortunately.
You think they should have done them like double side?
Well, I mean, they usually don't make these, so
yeah.
I wouldn't put it past Wizards that they just didn't decide to do it, which is fine.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit nitpicky when you kind of like see that. And then we do have Elish Norn, Mother Machines. She doesn't double the Giada triggers. We learned that like the second or third time, like 2 or 3 times ago.
Yep.
We learned that. But she's just a great value like machine, and it stops a lot of annoying ETB effects from your opponents, and she just removes ETBs in general from your opponents. And then we have Avacyn, Angel of Hope, which is probably going to be in every Angel deck as like a big top ender, just because giving everything indestructible is a nice
she's
bonus.
The OG.
And then we have Elish Norn, Grand Cenobite, in which she has Vigilance, if you can read, and all creatures you control have +2/+2, and creatures your opponents control get -2/-2. And this is in English, just so you guys know. Breathtaker Seraph. This is a card I didn't ever know until I bought the Secret Lair for Angels, that it existed. And it came from, and this card originates from the Midnight Hunt precons. Specifically, I believe the one that cares about Coven, but as long it has Soulbound and Flying, because it's an angel. As long as Breathkeeper Seraph is paired with another creature, each of those creatures has, when this creature dies, you may return it to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of your next upkeep. So you don't know what Soulbound is. Soulbound is whenever this creature enters or another creature enters, you may apply a status effect, just like kind of like how a commander is always a commander.
Yep.
It's a special tether to another card, like say this Elish Norn. Like if Elish Norn enters, you can choose this as a soulbound target, so that when either one of them leaves the battlefield, the effect of the Seraph will trigger. And it's a great way to get around removals, because they need to have 2 removal spells, because unless it's like a path or a swords, the creature will come back at your next upkeep.
So if you flickered that soulbound thing, and it comes back in, is it
just like
soulbound to something else?
Yeah, it's like Deadeye Navigator, where Deadeye Navigator can just
gotcha.
flicker in and come back and target something else.
But it can only soulbound to one.
Yeah, to one creature.
One creature.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just like how Deadeye Navigator, you can only soulbound to the Peregrine Drake if you're doing the Peregrine Drake combo or with other untappers. Baneslayer Angel, just mostly for flavor, to be honest. I don't think... There's a few times where Ivan has had dragon decks, but no one has really had demons where it really mattered. It's just a nice, how do I say this? Return to old Magic, in which, Baneslayer was, the top end, and just kind of helped control decks just kind of close out games as the big beater. Magus of the Moat, nothing to see here. I don't want a moat. If I did, I'd probably run both Magus and regular moat, just so that only creatures with flying can attack. We have a Vexless Praetor. So this is from the Warhammer 40k decks. This gives Giada protection from everything, which is very important, since Giada is the early foundation to your mana base, and people will more than likely try to remove her at every step. So having protection from everything is great. And it also makes her unblockable.
Oh yeah, it does, huh? That card's from Warhammer?
Yep. Yep. The Phyrexian Praetor.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Phyrexian Vindicator. Another card that I kind of wish was an angel. It seems like it was gonna be a Phyrexian angel horror, but it ended up being an angel horror. It just ended up being a Phyrexian horror. But it's an extremely powerful blocker, and it's a 4 cost, which you should always have the 4 whites to do this. If you don't have the 4 whites, I think something's gone wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just helps solidify against any any early aggression that comes towards you. And then Myro Shield of a Grave is in here as a way to deter people from casting instances during your turn and to make sure that your combat gets through regardless of what happens. Producing the soldier tokens is just kind of a bonus if I ever do need to swing in with her to create the soldiers. And there are, later on in this deck, there are some token generation that does produce soldiers. So she can produce quite a bit, but most of the time I use her as a way to just stop people from interfering in my combat or casting anything on my turn.
So it seems like you're running a lot of kind of utility. I don't have to call them utility creatures, but I mean they're not angels, obviously. So it's not like an angel, full-on angel tribal typal deck.
Yeah, because I feel like when you build a deck, your deck should serve a purpose, and you should always be able to try to play magic. So like you make a reanimator like commander deck, like let's say like Get Rog or Neoplasm. I believe that you should always have like outs to Leyline the Void. So like you'll play like Rex Sage, or if you really need to, you'll play a Nature's Claim.
Yep.
Even though it doesn't fit like the theme of the deck per se often, but you need to have outs or other things. So like Myro will help me like not get blown out by like Cell of the Wreckage or other stuff like that.
Yep.
Or people trying to do like cheeky things like Path to Exile, because if they path on their turn or on another opponent's turn, that means that I have mana on my turn that I'm not getting blown out by tempo-wise. And then Angel of the Dire Hour is something that most people won't see coming, and I can see why a lot of people don't like playing this since it's a fat 7 mana. But it works as a strictly better Cell of the Wreckage since they get nothing back for exiling all their attacking creatures. And you can also cast it, as it stated, it only cares about attacking creatures, so you can cast it on your opponent's turn when they're attacking another one of your opponents to completely like blow them out. Shattered Angel. This is a card that I don't see people play often in a lot of like lists, oddly enough. And I was surprised when Wizards actually put this in the Angel Secret Lair commander deck, because I liked playing this originally in my Giada deck way before, in my Avacyn deck before Giada was printed. Because it's just interesting to have a white card that benefits from lands or taxes opponents' lands when they enter. So like green decks will give you like a Cultivate, will probably get you 6 life when they cast a Cultivate, because they'll probably play a land and then cast Cultivate. So you get 6 life off of a Cultivate turn with Shattered Angel on the field or any other thing like that. And potentially more. Angel of Finality, it's an angel and it serves the job of exiling any graveyard, stops graveyard shenanigan decks. Just a nice little like utility creature. Angel of Invention serves as an anthem for the deck. I mean, most of the time I fabricate as +2/+1/+1 counters rather than 2 servos. There are times where you'll use you'll have to use the servos as actual bodies, but overall just use as an anthem. Sarah Paragon is an interesting card. It does have several uses in bringing back lands, and it does bring back some cards in this deck as an option. Sarah Emissary is used as like in my deck here. I like to use this as like my actual finisher, since you can give it protection from creatures and just go in and get in, or you can use it as protection from like instances, so you can just get rid of any like swords or anything, because the moment it resolves, because of the as it enters, just like with correct me if I'm wrong, with like Meddling Mage, there's no time between it entering and them being able to cast any spell, any instances, if you name instances, as it enters. Angel of Ruins is a good utility card for exiling enchantments or artifacts, or if I need to get that planes.
Yep. Legion
of Light, it's got Mentor, can buff up Giada, but most of all, when it dies, it gives a +1/+1 counter to everybody. So it's just a nice, good pump angel. Angelic Skirmisher gives you the ability to win any combat or win any like stall wars. Since you can give your angels that don't have vigilance, or you can give your creatures first strike or lifelink. It's a nice combat angel. Herald of the Host is interesting because Herald of the Host with Giada will give all the myriads the same amount of counters because they all enter at the same time, so they won't see each other. But that just means that you can swing really big with a Herald of the Host. Navala, Keeper of Silence, keeping shenanigans at bay, being a nice tax effect. Angel Jubilation, just a nice another anthem. Stops fetches. This deck doesn't run many fetches. It's not really going to care about that. Thalia's Lancer is a card that I think is an MVP in this deck because a lot of the best angels that you are wanting to have in your hand for any situation are usually legendaries, as well as you need to hit like later on here. I'm pretty sure I do run a couple legendary lands. You can grab those immediately off of Thalia's Lancers because all that Thalia's Lancer cares about is the word legendary. As long as they have the super type legendary, you can grab it with Thalia's Lancer.
Oh, interesting. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Herald of War, another nice mana dork, essentially. It reduces the cost of all angel and human spells. And since it enters with +1/+1 counters, you have Giada out, it automatically starts reducing the cost of your angels and humans because it just reduces each based on the counters on it. Lyra, still probably the best angel lord they've printed so far, in giving other angels you control +1/+1 and lifelink, on top of being a Baneslayer in keywords, besides protection. Weathered Wayfarer, kind of a staple in most mono white decks or any decks that's not running green but also running white. You will probably, and the key thing about Weathered Wayfarer is that it grabs any land, not just a basic or a plains. It grabs any land. Intrepid Adversary is used in here for more pump in case I need to get over some bigger creatures. So majority of the time, the bigger creatures are usually in green, like a Xenagos deck or big dragons or Saskia decks. Righteous Valkyrie, just used as a simple life gain tool as well as like a sister effect. And as long as you get to 7 or more life, it becomes an anthem of +2/+2. Chancellor of the Annex, probably a card that a lot of people don't run in angel decks, I feel like. Just because it's a dead card majority of the time in your hand. Even if it's in your opening hand because it costs 7 mana and you're playing mono white. So good luck trying to get to 7 mana at any expedited rate. But it's nice to have a nice counter spell effect in this deck. Because as everyone should know, white lacks counterspell or any interaction in general when it comes to the stack. Besides like Mana Tithe and Rebuke the Wicked, but they're all like conditional and other things like that. There's no actual like force. There's Reprieve, which is probably the best white mana counterspell, but it only delays it by about a turn. But this really stops people, and I've actually legitimately won games by revealing this on turn 1 because people literally couldn't play Magic.
What does it do again?
When you reveal it, if it's in your opening hand, you may reveal it. And the first spell each player of the game that each opponent costs 1 more. It's a force spike effect.
Oh,
every spell, every first spell is it gets force spiked.
Then it affects everyone but you.
Yeah, but you. And when it's on the board, every spell becomes force spiked automatically from your opponents.
Okay, so it's a nice little tax effect.
Yeah. And then Norn's Choirmaster. I wasn't really into like Allaby one, to be honest. I was looking through all of it besides like the Vindicator. I wasn't all that excited because there wasn't like a lot of mono white angels. I didn't even look much at the decks, the commander decks, but then when I saw this guy made me really excited. Just because whenever my commander I control enters the battlefield or attacks, I proliferate, which is really good in a deck that pumps out +1/+1 counters. Obviously, Sarah the Benevolent is in here. She's a decent planeswalker in this deck. I mostly put her in here for flavor, since she is the quote-unquote like mother of all angels in the Magic lore, as well as the first premier white planeswalker in Magic.
From Modern Horizons 1, right?
Yeah, she's from Modern Horizon 1, but she's been in the lore for forever.
Oh, really?
She's literally been in the lore forever. She's the premier white mana, white aligned planeswalker from the very beginning.
So has she never had a printing?
She never had a printing. She did have like random like she and a bunch of the other like original like Titan planeswalkers essentially had the Vanguard printing, which are like the additional like effects, but they never had she never had a real card until now.
Okay.
She's been like referenced in a bazillion cards, to be honest. And then we have Archangel Elspeth here. It's not a bad card either, especially the fact that I can turn my non-angels into angels with her down ticking of -2. But she's not all that useful in this deck But I just put it in there for flavor because it's
Yeah.
been a long time. I've been wanting kind of like Wizards to print a Angels Planeswalker since we had Omnixilus as a demon Planeswalker.
Oh,
so it's kind of nice to
yeah.
have like the other half of this. Mm-hmm. And then here's the soldier token producing Finale of Glory, where if you pay X is 10 or more, you get additional white angels. So you pay 10 to get the bare minimum, you'll get 40 powers worth of angels on top of another 20 power of white soldier tokens with vigilance. Obviously, an Entreat the Angels and a Stormheim Unleashed. Just to produce more angel tokens so that I can attempt to pump the actual angel cards in my hand with more +1/+1 counters.
Makes sense.
And then we're getting into the removal suite in this, which is a lot of like Winds of Abandon, so that I don't target anything in case I don't need to, and get rid of things that are indestructible or have issue like things like hexproof or protection with the overload effect. Austere Command, very nice module removal, can hit anything that I needed to hit besides lands. Descend upon the Sinful, get rid of anything indestructible, gets around people trying to play like Heroic Intervention. And if I do have Delirium, I do get a 4/4 out of it as well after everything's resolved. Catastrophe, I do use it to destroy all lands, specifically if there's Avacyn where I have such a big lead that nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it ends up being just another Wrath effect. Regenerate doesn't happen as often as it at all, so I miss these kind of old board wipes, but
Yeah. Let us know in the comments how you feel about land destruction. That's a
I could be
contentious
running
thing.
my Armageddon, but you know,
Yeah.
it is what it is. Terminus, a nice, efficient, instant speed removal if it so happens to be at times. Since Miracles, you can cast whenever you draw it for its miracle cost. On top of it, doesn't destroy, so there's no death triggers. It gets around all that other jazz that people like to play around with, like aristocrats and anything. Chroma's Vengeance, another mass board wipe. It has cycling, so in case I have more removal in my hand or I have dead cards, I can at least attempt to draw. Now, one Path to Exile with the obviously Angel promo for this deck. Flawless Maneuvers. I've loaned people out with Flawless Maneuver before. It's a great card. Definitely should see more reprints, to be honest. I think it's a little bit more expensive than it should be, but what do I know here? TP, Teferi's Protection. Staple white card for protecting your board. Nothing else to say about it. Great card. Sarah Avery. So a world enchantment, just like Concordant Crossroads, as most people should know, but it gives all flying creatures +1/+1, not just yours, everyone's. Just always remember that when you play this.
Oh, it's a symmetrical
It's a
effect.
symmetrical effect, just like how Concordant Crossroad gives everyone haste. I think every single enchant world is a symmetrical effect. And just remember, you play this and someone has Concordant Crossroads, the Concordant Crossroads will go through graveyard, just so you know. Because that's how enchant worlds work.
Nah, for real?
Yeah, you can only have there can only be one enchant world in play.
I didn't know that.
Angelic Chorus, just a life gain effect with a nice angelic artwork, just for flavor, really.
Yep.
And then Sigarda's Splendor, I think people are kind of like sleeping on this card in mono white. I think I haven't been really keeping up with EDH Rec or like Moxfield decks, but I feel like a lot of people are not like playing this card in mono white decks because considering most of the time, unless you're playing like stacks, extremely stacks heavy, you're probably going to be playing some sort of life gain, even if it's a small amount. And since at the beginning of your upkeep, when it enters, you note your life total. And then at the beginning of your upkeep, draw a card if your life total is greater than or equal to the last noted life total for Sigarda's Splendor. Then note your life total. Whenever you cast a white spell, you gain a life. So this is a nice card draw effect in white. It's always nice. And then Worship. I specifically grabbed 8th edition because it had Sarah's as a flavor text on it, more so than anything else. Although it does upset some people that it's white bordered, but it's a nice way to keep you alive, specifically if like you get overrun and you're just like sitting on like an Avacyn and yeah, they just can't kill you unless it's strictly commander damage, but Avacyn can probably block most commanders anyways.
Yeah.
Vanquisher's Banner, another card draw effect. It's more useful for the card draw effect than the pumping because angels in general are larger creatures than most other creatures. as well as on top of Giada pumping them, you in general should have evasion and power and toughness advantage over most other creature-based decks. And then Endless Atlas. I think Endless Atlas is one of the best cards Wizards ever printed. Strictly coming from a fact that it helps like 2-colored and 1-monocolored decks to draw cards. Just simply pay 2 to draw a card, activate this, only you control 3 or more lands with the same name, is fantastic. It's a nice way to give card advantage to these color combinations or monocolored decks that lack innate card draws. Even in mono red, I would like this because sometimes I just don't want to loot. I just don't want to loot at all. Discard a card in my hand. And then Sword of the Animus, natural ramp, especially in a white deck or in a non-green deck. Nothing much to see here. And then Cage Sun, same deal. +1/+1 is also nice. Pearl Medallion, cost reduction. Urza's Incubator, big cost reduction.
Yep.
Soul Ring, Karoo, just for extra land. And then Cathedral of Serra. All your white legends gain bans with other legends. It's a great card, doesn't produce any mana, isn't legendary, but adds a great flavor to this deck and makes people's heads spin and trying to grasp what banding and trying to explain banding to people in the simplest way. Even though it's a very simple like mechanic.
I still don't get it.
It's easy. If I ever actually pull this off, because it's very,
I don't think I've ever seen that.
it's
in
very
play.
tough. Yeah, it's very tough to get legends together. And then Angel Castle, it's useful in protecting Giada, considering she only has 2 toughness, and preventing the next 2 damage to a legendary creature is really nice, especially when you don't have like a Abyssin or anything that actually protects your creatures.
Sure.
And then Nykthos, Shrine to Nyx, makes it super obvious to always have this inside a monocolor deck, specifically, just to produce a crap ton of mana. And Myria, the Sky Ruin, another reanimation effect for this deck. Path of Ancestry in any tribal deck should always have, just for a nice scry. And then these are my planes. I've used mostly the planes from the Commander deck, but I do like these Dominaria planes specifically that they produce.
Are they all foil too?
No, not the Rebecca Goyle one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but all the planes from the Secret Lair were all foil. So you might be noticing that this deck is lacking like a lot of like equipment and whatnot, and I just don't like, when I build decks, I don't like to like divert as much as possible from like what my plan is. My plan for this deck is get Giada out, start getting angels on the board,
Yep.
and start getting them big. And essentially, the way that I play Giada is the same way like someone would play a Xenagos deck. I try to get my big creatures out and just start swinging and trying to end the game as fast as possible. And then if I don't end up getting any big angels, essentially all the board wipe purchase to just keep everything down until I start getting my creatures out. And a lot of these board wipes, since they're destroy effects or like in Wings Abandoned, each target creature I don't control, so just all one-sided board wipes.
Yeah, kind of trying to stall out.
Yep, and that is my Giada deck.
Well, awesome looking deck. Thank you for sharing. Awesome, appreciate that. And
Yeah, no problem.
yeah, feel free to leave a like, subscribe, and let us know in the comments what you think about this deck. I know that Angel Tribal is very popular, so if you got a list, we'd love to see it. I'm going to toss a Moxfield list up in the description if you want to check that out. And, well, thank you for watching. Catch you in the next one.